The Seattle Kraken are going to try to get off the mat, but they've still got a big challenge ahead of them as they host the Detroit Red Wings tonight.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your team every day, or at least every day that I don't have to down 5 throat lozenges to get on the microphone. Apologies for missing yesterday's episode. The voice wasn't having it. So hopefully I sound a little bit better today. I want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Not a great game against the Calgary Flames. The Seattle Kraken needed that game. And they need every game to find a way to get some points. Now, given how we got here, that seems like a very tall hill to climb. And it gets a little bit steeper today as the Seattle Kraken take on the Detroit Red Wings. From Climate Pledge Arena, Again, my voice might shrill out every once in a while, just like it is right now. But I apologize, especially for audio listeners. I'm going to do my best to get through this one. All right. Detroit 27-21-5, 23-28-3 are your Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken are taking on, again, the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, we're going to have to talk a little bit about what happened last time these two teams played. It really just set into motion some epic rants on my end. But the Red Wings are 7-2-1 in their last 10. The Kraken are 5-5-0 in their last 10. And the most recent loss, again, to Calgary, needed points in that game, didn't get them in that game. And this is a Kraken team that, again, I mean, listen to what Vince Dunn said. He talked about before the practice that the Kraken had yesterday that the focus was really on the details and knowing that they have to master the details. He said something akin to, you can play for the guy next to you, we can play for each other, but if we're not mastering the details, then it's really not, it's not good enough. Vince Dunn was also asked about some kind of silver lining question, and I really appreciated and respected Vince's response, because the response is, yeah, sure, those things are nice, I guess, but they're not good enough. They don't outweigh what is needed at this time in the season. He said effectively, what feels good right now are wins, and the Seattle Kraken are not able to get to that 2 out of 3. We're not there. And it's a heavy task that they have with the Red Wings coming up tonight. So if it's just a matter of the details and the discipline, that is something that, in theory, the Seattle Kraken should be able to control. Yet here we are, and we're not seeing it. We are not seeing a mastery of the one thing that, or not the one thing, but maybe the main thing that the Seattle Kraken need to master. This is game 55. These are not, young spring chickens that we have here. And so once again, I sit in front of this camera speaking into this microphone. Can you tell Notting Hill has been playing on my Netflix account? I'm just a podcaster sitting in front of a microphone. I'm just a podcaster sitting in front of a camera, speaking into a microphone, asking my hockey team to get it together. Get it together. You know that you have the capacity to do it. Now we have to do it. And I'm saying that like it's easy. I'm not It is and it isn't. It's one of those things in life, right? Where the reality is sometimes you have to do something. You have to get up. You got to take a shower, brush your teeth, pay your bills, do this, do that, make some or find something to eat. We know these things, but the way that our mind works and with everything going on in the world, sometimes that will, it diminishes. And I want to be thoughtful of that. I want to be mindful of that. I've opened up on this podcast that I've been someone who has had to deal with mental health struggles that kind of whacked me like, out of nowhere. I turned my head and then boom, smacking right into a brick wall. So I understand that. And I want to be mindful of that. And I've said this on the podcast before. The truth of the matter is that even in that deep despair, even in the moments where our mind and our body and our will are out of sync, the only thing that will get you up off the mat, like I said in the cold open, the only thing that is going to get you up off the mat is you. So it sounds like the Seattle Kraken in practice, per Vince Dunn today, they've tried to do that. But now they have to show it, and they have to show it against the Detroit Red Wings that put them down heavy on the mat in their last matchup. We'll talk a little bit about what we need to see from the Kraken, especially given what we saw from them last time they played Detroit. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. As I mentioned at the top of the show, today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 coming up this weekend. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And again, the live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. The app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. So again, download that app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Again, especially to my audio listeners, apologies for the sound of my voice, kind of like, my vocal cords have been shred by, a lawnmower, but doing my best here. And that's really what I want to see the Seattle Kraken do. Listen, I came to this podcast, doesn't sound great, but I'm here. We need the guys to show up. That's number one. And to show up on time. Hello. We continue to see the Seattle Kraken team say they know they got to get an early start and absolutely bomb in the first period. Now, there were a lot of things happening in Calgary, including a very frustrated Joey Daccord, which we do not see often. A disallowed goal for the Kraken. A challenge that didn't go our way. And then boom, before you know it, it's 3-0. Got it to 3-2 against Calgary. Even got a last minute shot. But the energy that you exude to come from behind, physically knowing that the Seattle Kraken have that in their repertoire, in their toolbox. Sure, you can say it's a positive, but that's the wrong question. And I've heard that question asked a few times in the scrum, and I get it. The guys are down. It can be uncomfortable to sit in a locker room and talk to a guy after, however many losses It can be uncomfortable. I've literally been there. But that's not our job, is to not make it uncomfortable. Our job is to tell the truth. And if the truth in the moment is that the team is uncomfortable, then I don't think it's I'll put this on me. I don't think it's my job to try and get the athlete comfortable. I think it's my job to help facilitate a conversation on what is happening in the mind of the player. And so athletes know, we're not doing our job right now. So that's why I love what Vince Dunn said. I understand the question. I wish the collective we of media could just be okay with uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable answers. Like, if you ask a question, someone's answer is their answer. The story can be just as beautiful and honestly even more complex when we just let athletes say what they feel, which is why I respect what Vince Dunn said today, because he's like, sure, I mean, I guess it's good that we know we have that, but that's not good enough for now. That's not what we need. We don't need to feel good about a comeback. We need to feel good because we got to win. So how do we take that, right? This is what the Seattle Kraken, I'm sure, are trying to figure out. But for me, how do I take that? I take that as, now I've joked around before, and I'd still love to see a coach try this, to be honest. I've joked around before and said maybe instead of optional morning skate, which seemed like it was a full morning skate today, so maybe Dan Bilesma is my guy, huh? Instead of an optional morning skate on a game day, run a full freaking practice. Run a full practice. Because the guys seem to be in good spirits, had the juice, had the jam, had the sandpaper, the P&V, all of that yesterday. And then when the puck drops for period number 1, I've said this for years. I've been saying this for years, which is wild. All of that seems to dissipate. Aggressive, good skate, get out the juice, get out the jam. This is a team that they can crawl out of a hole. So even if they're dog tired early in the morning, let them get some rest. And maybe they'll come into period number 1 like they do period number 2 and 3 of, on average, Seattle Kraken games. I don't know. At this point, what do we have to lose? Another game? Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? All right, that was the sarcasm. That was the spice in me coming out. The practical part of this. How do you bounce back against Detroit? They know they have to get an early start, but what does that look like? What does that mean? For me, I'd break it down. I need you to get X amount of hits in this period. I don't really like hits, but you got to have some metric. I need X amount of hits, X amount of shots on goal. Like, get me this number. Get me this number of shots. Get me this number of blocks. Get me this number of saves in the first period. That is the only metric by which we will measure our success in starting the game. So let's just take a look. The Seattle Kraken, in that 6-2 loss to Detroit, the last time we played, last month, the Seattle Kraken had 1 goal in the second, 1 goal in the third, 4 goals they gave up to Detroit. So 3 against Calgary wasn't even the worst. Let's break this down. In the first period, Seattle Kraken had 12 shots on goal to 11 from Detroit. I don't know, this might seem wild. Get me 24. Get me 24 shots. Just shoot the dang thing. Also, stop thinking about anything. This is absolutely ridiculous. I know this. I know this is ridiculous. But you know what else is kind of ridiculous to me? Saying that you need to start on time multiple times in a season and going into game 55 and many people not knowing if we can trust that this team is actually going to start on time or if they're going to revert back to the mean. That's kind of wild to me. Shots dissipated in the second period, 6 for Seattle, 8 for Detroit, and then finally 15 in the third to 4. So maybe if you don't want to double up the shots from period number 1, I'd say you need to get me 15 or more shots in the first and second period. And why do I say the first and second period? Because I keep telling you the numbers for the Seattle Kraken. As of right now, when we look at the Seattle Kraken and we look at where the team stands after the second period, if they are winning versus if they are leading, versus if they are trailing. Trailing after the first period, 8-14-0 for your Seattle Kraken. Trailing after the second period, 3-26-2. The Seattle Kraken need to produce volume and produce shots on goal to let me know that they're serious about getting something to the net. So now I don't want this to just be shots because that would be easy, right? But another thing that the Seattle Kraken team says they've been working on is getting bodies to the net. So if you know, especially from your blue liners who we want to get activated in the offense, are going to shoot that thing down there, you need to haul buns, get in front of the net, and find that rebound. Is it coming off the board? Is it popping off somebody's skate? Is it coming off the pipe? Is it going to be a juicy rebound? Be ready. The shot's going in. You know the shot's going in because we have to hit 15 or more shots. 24 would be amazing because why the heck not? Double them up, right? Get those shots towards the net. Get the bodies towards the net. And puck battles. Where do we want our possession period by period to be? Where do we want those things to be? Capo Caco has said it before. I believe, I think it was Ellie Tolvanen a few days ago. We talked about this. Forechecking is huge for this team. Where are you when it comes to that? Are you aggressively forechecking at all times? Are you winning the board battles at all times? I mean, I know this sounds like a lot, but ultimately, if you say you want to start on time, if you say you want to be the aggressors, if you say that you need points, you need to win games, and you know, statistically speaking, at least, looking at the odds, if you are trailing in the second frame, you will lose. Why wouldn't you put all of your effort into doing these things in the first 40 minutes? Why wouldn't you do that? I know this because I look at the stats that are sent to me by the Seattle Kraken PR. I have to think that the coaching staff and the players probably know this as well. So what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't even want to hear anymore. I don't know if I can stomach having to hear the Seattle Kraken as a collective team tell us once again, we know we need to get out to a good start. We didn't do it. I cannot stomach it. Against a team that embarrassed you 6-2? 6-2. They scored 4 in the and here's the first period goals. The Casper goal at 3:22. JT Comfort goal at 3:33. The DeBrincat goal at 6:16. And the Patrick Kane goal at 7:53. So these goals were in quick succession, is my point. It's like, I keep using this boxing metaphor. I honestly didn't know that I would land here, but you know how disorienting it is to get hit in the mouth and then get hit almost immediately? Boom, boom, combos. Combos are like, that's when you start seeing guys stumble. The Seattle Kraken have been stumbling all season. When are they going to throw an uppercut of their own? When are they going to learn to put their hands up? When are they going to slide in and dip out of the way? When is it going to happen? When are they going to get up off of the mat? If they're not, just tell us, right? You keep saying you want to get off the mat. this is a team where you got to prove it. You got to prove it. I want to talk about some more specific numbers here. I mean, I gave you why we have to have a good start. But again, this is a Detroit team that's pretty solid. 7 wins in their last 10. The Seattle Kraken have a frustrated goaltender, rightfully so for Joey Daccord, but that's what we don't need. That's out of character for Joey Dax. I completely understand why he was frustrated in the last game. But if our best player can't refocus, it's hard for me to believe that this team really has a chance to have a prove-it game against Detroit. And that's another thing, if I'm being honest, the skaters probably should be concerned with. You need to protect your goalie. I talked about it the other day on the, I guess it was Friday's episode. We've been showing some outward aggression, especially when guys get in tight to our goaltender. Our goaltender's frustrated, and I can't imagine. We talk so much about how, Philip Grubauer going down, not like this, it's really tough. How do we think Joey Daccord is feeling? If he wasn't feeling like the weight of the team and the franchise is on his shoulders before, how do you think he's feeling knowing that effectively the mission is, I got to get us to the 4 Nations break. And we're trying to win 2 out of 3. And we're already in a hole. We're already behind on that. How much pressure do you think Joey Daccord is feeling? And is this team going to do what it takes to alleviate some of that pressure? So what does that look like? What does that mean? Also some roster updates coming up on Locked On Kraken. Not going to be an easy one for the Seattle Kraken. This is a Detroit team that really pestered us. It was brutal. It was a brutal loss. And the Seattle Kraken, unfortunately, are not a team that has been able to, again, with consistency, come out of that. We had a little stretch there. I've worn the Uma hat a few times since we took on the Red Wings, but the consistency isn't there. We're not in our 2 out of 3 like we want to be. So there's a lot of work. There's still a lot of work to get done. So let's look at some of these numbers. I'm going to pull up, for those watching on YouTube, this is the game notes that I often refer to. I'm going to put them up on the screen. 59 points right now to 49 points. I mean, I told you guys we really need to get to 50, and we missed a chance against Calgary. Jared McCann is our leading scorer, 41 points. Lucas Raymond, 57 points for the Red Wings. The power play, 27%. It is something that Dan Bilesman talked about today. Got to stay 5-on-5. 18.7% power play for the Seattle Kraken. 77.1% on the penalty kill. So, yeah, sure, that's better than the PK for the Red Wings. What that tells me, though, is that we need to find opportunities on the power play. Now, how do you generate opportunities on a power play? Well, you have to move your feet. You have to be skating. You have to move the puck. You have to move your body. I know a lot of people in the comments talk about how the Seattle Kraken, sometimes they get a little stagnant, especially on the power play. Have to move. That's that fast, right? We have not been able to talk about this team using its speed. And I don't think it's because we don't have it, but the discipline. Is it like tortoise in the hare? Like, this is a team that is not steady. They're not slow, but they're also not steady. So they're not the tortoise or the hare, right? They're just the worst of both. That might have been harsh. I might have also meant it. The point is, that's how you get yourself an advantage, either by skating through everyone and then you have open ice, or skating through everyone and then the other team panicking, so they commit a penalty. I mean, it's really that simple. It's not rocket science. It's in every sport in the world under the sun. That's why you have things that are called professional fouls, or penalties in the case of hockey, because that's how you have the advantage. You utilize your speed. The Seattle Kraken are not utilizing their speed. I already talked about forechecking. They need to do better. Even back checking. I continue to talk about Kako. He has such a knack for just being able to pick up sticks, re-win the puck. Puck battles, win puck battles, win puck battles. Please, 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 please. Sometimes you gotta create the puck battles that you then want to win, just like you can fabricate penalties for other teams. People do it all the time. You accelerate, and then you just change speed or direction a little bit, and then you get the other team in a bad way because they're already on the back burner, and then you utilize that. You've got them on your shoulder, and then you just kind of deke one way or the other, and then they're either going to have to let you go or they're going to have to foul you. Draw the penalty. With these numbers, the Seattle Kraken should be utilizing their speed to draw penalties. Power play needs to move. Recycle, 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 recycle. Our best power plays are when the puck is moving. What was that? Who ended up with the goal? Might have been Dunner. Anyway, some of our best puck movers, or just movers overall on the power play, generally speaking, Shane Wright does a great job. I think Matty Beniers has been doing a much better job. Chandler Stevenson also, when he moves, he can actually be effective. He can be slippery, kind of like what I say about Oliver Bjorkstrand. But it's not as consistent as it needs to be with Stevenson, but honestly with the entire Seattle Kraken team. We heard Vince Dunn there was a lot of questions about Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour sometimes ending up on the same line, yada, 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 on the same pair because they are defensemen. What Vince was saying is that they spend time, when they do spend time together, it's when they're on a 6-on-5. So the goalie has been pulled. We're trying to get our puck moving defensemen. We're trying to get defensemen who we know are going to shoot the crap out of the puck on the ice at the same time. He talked about, though, on 5-on-5, that they have not really played well together, and that's something that they have to figure out. Why am I mentioning all of this? Because that's the work that the Seattle Kraken need to do. As interesting, I guess, as it is that Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour have been on the same pairing 5-on-5, I'm more interested in seeing if we'll be able to utilize their attack when we have a skater advantage. So not just the 6-on-5. We've also had some 5-on-3 opportunities in the last handful of games. Why would you have Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour on the same power play? Because I'm sure the scout is out that both of them have heavy shots. They're willing to take those shots. They can create offense. Now, that can pose a problem 5-on-5 because, as Vince Dunn said, then he's ending up being more of the defensive-minded defenseman. But if you toss both of them out there on the power play and you just let them cook, I could be okay with that. Because something's got to give. The power play has to be a weapon that this Seattle Kraken team uses, and I don't think we lean into that enough. We have to use that we're fast. A part of being fast is being able to pass, because the puck will move faster from one end of the ice to the other than you can skate that same distance. It's like physics or something. I don't know. Excuse me. This throat lozenge is really working. It's from Canada. And of course, my supply is down, which, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation for probably a whole nother podcast. Anyway, glad it's working. Glad I picked some up last time I was in Canada. I'm struggling because a part of me wants to say that the Seattle Kraken team honestly just needs to throw the spaghetti on the wall. But in like a coordinated way, if that makes sense. I like the idea of throwing the spaghetti on the wall, the spaghetti being Montour and Dunn being selectively used at the same time. I like that spaghetti on that wall. Masterpiece. Mwah. Beautiful. Something's got to give. You know, we've seen shift change shorten up on the shift changes at times and the rotations, but something has got to give. This is a by any means necessary, whatever it takes. This team needs to get points against Detroit. It is not going to be easy. They have made it so that it will not be easy. But all of the excuses, put them in a freaking bag at the door, hit the ice, get it done. You have the home crowd, at least for a while. You have to get something, get that engine riled up. Kind of like that Winnipeg game. They got close, couldn't get it done, and that motivated them. I really would love them to get some points. So I'm not advocating to leave this game like we did Winnipeg or like we did Calgary with being so close to getting it to overtime and falling short. That cannot be an option in the psyche of the Seattle Kraken. Now, if it happens, it happens, you know, but again, it goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes you have to decide when you're on the mat if you're going to surrender to the loss or if you just are going to dare to get up one more time to ensure that even if you lose, that you emptied the freaking tank. And I don't know, maybe if I'm being generous, I can count on two hands how many times I feel as an observer, this is not scientific, how many times I feel from my eye test, the Seattle Kraken have truly emptied the tank as a team. Because I think you can point to individuals. But as a team, has this Seattle Kraken emptied the tank? I'm getting close to the camera here. I'm getting close to the microphone. Do you think this Seattle Kraken team over 50% of the time is emptying the tank? I don't. And I think that's a problem. They need to, at minimum, that's like bare bone second basement level minimum, need to be at emptying the tank at 50%. It really needs to be 100. If you're serious about trying to get this season back, and maybe you're not, I don't know. Play for pride, boys, because right now we look at the standings and then we'll wrap up this episode. Wild card. Colorado and Calgary, they have it. Vancouver, 57 points. St. Louis, 52 points, and they're in that second slot under the line. Utah, 51 points. Anaheim, 50 points. Seattle Kraken at 49. Get off the mat. Get off the mat. Get some points here. Get some points. And see if you can make a surge. You play Calgary again. Get some points. We've got St. Louis coming up. Get some freaking points. Because those, they count on both sides. You stop the other team, and then you're advancing, which is why that Calgary loss was heartbreaking, gut-wrenching. I listened on the radio, and I was going to say this, and then my voice was just so terrible. I was feeling so bad yesterday. But as Everett Fitzhugh closed out the show on the radio, the mic didn't cut off, and you heard his just exhaustion from the game. It was kind of like, like just couldn't believe that the team got that close and couldn't find the back of the net. So freaking close. I almost want our guys to experience that more. Because when you get that close, you never forget how it felt. You never forget that. I got so impassioned about talking about getting off the mat, emptying the tank, that I forgot that I did want to do some roster updates. Now, I didn't talk about this before. Joey Daccord, we know, has been out for a while. There's just been a lot going on with the Seattle Kraken. Ultimately, the team decided that he did need surgery, so that's not anything. We're not getting Joey Daccord back anytime soon. Also, on better news, Jordan Eberle in a red practice jersey today at Kraken Community Iceplex. This is a step in the right direction for his rehabilitation after having pelvic surgery. Our captain, seeing the captain on the ice, maybe that will give this team the juice that they need to empty the tank, to make no excuses, to eliminate the fear, let it go and play hockey. Do all of the things that we know, the 4 Fs: fun, fast, forechecking, and free. Play free of any burdens. The Seattle Kraken team needs to rally. They've been putting a lot on Joey Daccord all season. That last game was difficult for the team overall, but you could just see the frustration from Joey, and he did snap back and bounce back for the most part, but this team needs to get him as far away from that game as possible. And the way that you do that is that you get into the 3 Fs early. You continue to play the 3 Fs at minimum through the first 40 minutes, and you have to get up off the mat. Detroit is going to come swinging. They've already knocked us down a few times. This Seattle Kraken team has to get up off the mat. They have to be willing to empty the tank. And I there's still a piece of me that has hope that they can do that, but I got to see it. I got to see it. You know, the faith of a mustard seed is all you need sometimes. But also sometimes seeing is believing, right? In the case of NHL hockey, walk it like I talk it. I mean, you know, you say you know what you need. That's the talk. So now walk like you talk. You say you know you need a strong start. You say you know you need to be the aggressors. You say you know that there are things that this team can and should be doing to get wins. That's the talk. Now walk. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. That's what I want to see. Again, be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. And it's a game day. Hold fast. Stay true. Loud and proud, we say always, even in the pits of despair, even if we might be on the mat, even if we are closing up our wounds because of a tough loss, we always say, let's go Kraken. The voice is starting to feel a little better, so hopefully I will see you tomorrow for our next episode of Locked On Kraken with no more interruptions. Peace out, everybody.